Into the arena now is Class 16 milking Shorthorns, weighing 1222 to 1344. The Champion Milking Shorthorn Dairy Beef Steer Award is sponsored by Mid-States Farmers Mutual Insurance. Class number 16 has entered the arena. Class 16 is in the arena, so we're going to be ready for Class 17 in the makeup arena. Class 17 in the makeup arena, followed by Class 18 then.
Trio out here for our milking Shorthorn fat steer division. We're going to start off the class with the young ladies red steer here. One that certainly handles with the most shape and most dimension there over the top side of that skeleton through the loin. I think he stays consistent from his hip up into his shoulder there. He comes with plenty of shape there off the back side of his skeleton. I think you got to ask yourself, is he square enough in his hip in terms of having that show ring look? And I think he's okay. But when we start tying it back into the real world here and start talking about retail value as they hang, that one puts the most good together. We're going to follow him up with the young ladies red and white steer here. Larger framed animal, consequently gets just a touch flatter there, looking there, that muscle pattern, but just a little bit lighter, particularly there over the midsection of that rib cage when you get your hands on him, and maybe just a touch fleshier there in terms of where he's at in fat finish. Nonetheless, a nice steer there. Young ladies brindle pattern here, steer that we're going to use for third. Just a little bit harder bodied, higher flanked one. I think that one there we need to make more comfortable when you put him into motion. Wants to get a little tight up top, and then as you get on him, that left side stifle joint's getting a little bit sore on him there, and it's affecting how he's utilizing his hock. When we put him into motion, he's just getting real stiff off that left rear leg. On top of that, we need just a little bit more muscle shape to move up higher into the class. Thank you.
Placings in class number 16, first and champion milking shorthorn, exhibited by Holly Howard. Once again, that award is sponsored by Mid-States Farmers Mutual Insurance. Second place and reserve champion milking shorthorn dairy beef steer, exhibited by Lindsay Stone. And third place went to Tate Bonin. Into the arena now, we have Holstein steers weighing 998 pounds to 1115.
For our first class of Holstein fat steers out here, I think a logical place to start is with the young ladies moderate frame steer here. Certainly not the biggest, not the heaviest, but when you get on him there, it comes at you with the most genuine muscle shape, is going to hang the most product on the rail there. I'd argue he needs a little more time on feed to get to that optimal endpoint to balance out that condition to where we've got some quality cut into that retail through the loin there, but nonetheless, nice steer. We're going to follow him up with the young ladies larger frame steer here, one that I think we need to level out over the top side of that skeleton, make a little more comfortable in his hip. but this doesn't come at you with as much shape and dimension there, particularly through the backside of the skeleton. When you get right in there behind that shoulder blade, we just don't quite have as much shape and turn over that loin where our high quality cuts are going to be. Rounding out the class, we're going to use the young man's steer here. Just need to make him more comfortable all the way around there. He wants to hunch up a little bit. He gets up in his flank. But we go above and beyond that, just a little bit harder bodied steer there that we need to get some more product through before he's going to reach that optimal endpoint.
Placings in Class 17 Holsteins. First went to Laney Parker, second to Ella Knoll, and third to Calvin Lee. Next in the arena, Class number 18 Holsteins, weighing 1220 to 1365. Helping us distribute awards today is our honor achiever, Gwen Brubaker. Gwen is the daughter of Mark and Helen Brubaker of Huntertown. She is an 8-year member of the Eel River 4-H Club, where she has held an office. This fall, Gwen will be a junior at Carroll High School. Let's put our hands together and welcome honor achiever, Gwen Brubaker. Assisting Gwen is Lydia Dyer, a member of the Maumee Go-Getters. She just recently graduated from Woodland High School, and this is her final year in 4-H. Let's put our hands together and welcome Lydia.
For our second class of Holstein steers out here, we'll start off with the young ladies steer. I think puts most good things together and kind of starts checking off all those boxes. He's fairly consistent there when you get your hands on him. A little deceiving there. I thought he'd be have a little more shape and turn over the top side of that loin. Nonetheless, within the trio, he was the deepest there in terms of having that muscle dimension. I think he's probably the most comfortable there on his joints when we put him into motion. We're going to follow him up with the young lady steer that's getting a little cantankerous for her out here. Just not quite as expressive in that muscle shape there. I like to see him with a little more base width at the ground, but that's starting to split hairs there. Just overall need to see that carcass be a little truer and a little more genuine. we'll round out the class with a young man's steer here. Certainly the leanest one here in the group of steers. Just need to get some more feed through that one, get him to that optimal endpoint, get a few more pounds of product and a little bit more cover on there before we could send one like that to market. Thank you.
All right, placing in Class 18 Holsteins, first went to Myra Burning, second to Ashlyn Chester, and third to Calvin Lee. Into the arena now, Class number 19 Holsteins weighing 1385 to 1418. Reminder to 4-H exhibitors, after the conclusion of the show, within 1 hour, you need to let Mrs. Clark know what you're doing with each of your animals. Some of you have already done that. Thank you very much for being diligent and getting that done promptly. But please let Mrs. Clark know what you're doing with each one of your animals. Regardless of what you're doing with it, she needs to know where that animal is to be.
in our third class Holstein fat steers out here. I think you got 3 different kinds of steers, or steers that represent 3 different types of cattle, however you'd like to coin it. Starting off the class, though, we're going to use the young lady's steer here, just a moderate, stout-featured animal. You get your hands on that one, and a ton of expressive muscle shape on there. And I think he's in a good spot in terms of having enough finish to complement that muscle shape. Maybe gets a touch coarser on the go, but that's getting critical of one that comes out here and does pretty well. Young lady's steer that's predominantly white that we're going to follow up our first place with. Definitely a touch leaner of an animal there. I can appreciate the shape that is there. We just need to get a little more condition on there to complement it all. Definitely a larger frame, and I'd argue he's a touch more comfortable on the go. Just going to be a touch less product there whenever we get him onto the rail. Rounding out the class, the young lady's spotted up steer here. One that we just need to balance out, make a touch more comfortable, change how he lays that hip in there on the top line, and give him just a little bit more time on feet to get a little more explosive to where he's ready to go to the rail.
Placings in class number 19 Holsteins first went to Lainey Parker, second to Lena Rielson, and third to Emma Knoll. Next in the arena, class number 20 Holsteins, weighing 1461 to 1480.
In our fourth class, a Holstein market steer is here for me. The young lady's steer that's getting a little anxious out here is a logical place to start. Tremendous amount of shape there and very consistent in that finish as you get your hands on him, run him over the top side of that loin. And I think he's got enough shape off the rear there, puts himself together in a very nice balanced package that in my opinion is ready to go to the rail. We're going to follow him up with the young lady's steer here for second place. Certainly not a bad animal there, but when you get your hands on that one, just a touch more inconsistent in terms of where he's at in that muscle development and gets a little patchier in terms of that finish on there. Nonetheless, nice animal, gets out here, moves around with some athleticism. The young lady's predominantly white steer here on the end, just gets out horsed today. I think you can respect that one skeleton, but we just aren't quite at that optimal endpoint there. A little more time on feed, fed a little bit harder there, and I think that one could come back in and do pretty well. Thank you.
All right, placings in class number 20. First went to Kylie Cripps. This was also the champion rate of gain, gaining 3.40409 pounds per day. Second place went to Megan Bushing, and third to Ashley Hadley. The champion rate of gain award is sponsored by Chris, Jean, and Ashley Kendall.
In our last class, Holstein steers here in the Fat Steer Show. Before we go and select a champion Holstein, you got 3 different animals that are in 3 different spots in terms of where they're at for finish and being ready to go on the rail. I think the logical place to start out with is the young ladies steer here for first. You get your hands out one, very consistent in terms of that muscle shape, and he's very consistent in terms of that finish. I think you got to ask yourself if he's square enough in his hip. That's getting pretty critical on one. And I think when you put that carcass merit into play and the fact that he can still get out and go, he's a very logical place to start out for first. After that, in the second place, hold the young ladies black steer. One that's certainly a lot leaner, not necessarily quite there in terms of finish. Tons of shape on there, but we just need to get a little bit more condition on the top side of that carcass before I think he's ready to go on his optimal endpoint. That said, I think he is just a little bit squarer built. In our third place here, we're going to round out with the young ladies. One that I think has more condition than he does muscle. There is some down deep in there if you go digging, but I think we just need to get it to be a little bit more expressive to complement the condition that he does have. Thank you.
In class number 21, Holsteins first, Myra Burning, Kylie Cripps, and third to Eleanor Fink. Kylie Cripps was also the reserve champion rate of gain with her steer gaining 3.2208 pounds per day. Let's give Kylie a big round of applause for the reserve champion rate of gain. All right. Next in the arena, exhibitors will be competing for the champion Holstein Dairy Beef Steer.